Audio test. Audio test. Audio test. Not the best, but it'll do. Not the... Not the... Not the... Two. Hello. I'll give it a few minutes for other people to actually join before I start everything up. It's having an issue here. Should be almost everything set up. Okay, just a few more minutes and then we'll get underway. Yeah, sorry I'm a little late for this one. But hopefully the audio doesn't suck this time. Or, well, is at least tolerable. But do let me know. I'm actually, in fact, going to need to get open a second project file, as this one ended up being split across two for reasons that will become apparent fairly early on. Everything great so far? Ah, finally cracked audio that doesn't suck. Like to see it. Got the stream delay as low as possible, so from my testing it's about 4 seconds, so should be close to close to good. Yeah, once we get caught past, I'll start the explanation. But to give you a preview, this is the effectively the unedited audio, which sits at a cool 4 hours and 14 minutes. You know, just a few. The actual audio, as you'll see in this one, and you saw the actual video, was cut down to only 51 minutes, but that's severely cut down on what it started at. And in fact, I only actually got to about here in the audio. But let us go back to the restart. The wrong link, helps if I paste the correct one. Okay, might as well get going. So, Pathfinder. This one ended up taking a bit longer than I'd originally expected, but got there in the end. Well, got halfway there in the end. The intro section was a fairly simple affair. Just repeated clips of casting, which, if I then also solo this video track, you can just see is Infinity. There's a volume control for this guy. Oh, fine. Yeah, it's just a clip from Overlord, which then I replaced footage of. The castings then just being phased colours between a few different layers with a standard picture-in-picture animation for the goblin walking. Seems like there's a lot here, but that's actually just from the shaking. It's not that bad. Then just fading in of the fire effects, one behind, then one in front, alongside the dark shadow. Finally, stopping at our explosion. Fairly easy for a start. Then just a standard blur and going into the review. This bit is kind of what started the trend for the whole video of. I discovered there was a free camera mod which let me pan about somewhat as I see fit. I'll probably boot up the game to show later, but it's not nearly as good as it wants to make out. You have a lot of limitations on it, but nonetheless, it works purpose. Then just standard strange shaped crops in order to in order to get everything, because we have the background. So we have the background layer, the then animated layer, and then the front layer, in order so it clips across properly and it don't have the wing in front of the face, as if that was missing, it would somewhat be over Irabeth. I later discovered that there's a much better way of doing that, but that won't be until the very end of the video, so we'll get back to that. Nothing else particularly of note in the first section. These are just standard overlays. Standard pan and crops, all the no-fly lists and government watch lists. And then going on to the just standard TG memes of promotions, -4 strength and that lot. But you'll notice this all stops at about here. It's only this first section that actually really shows. And that's because if I go to the other one, yeah, with this longer video, Vegas does struggle a bit. This whole section was rendered out, and this bit specifically I burnt onto an actual goddamn physical VHS tape. I've got the thing sitting right next to me, but it's a physical unit. Actual had to buy replacement tapes off eBay and everything. Yeah. Which does give the nice proper black and white effect. It's all the edging and feathering is authentic. Then when it goes to color is a similar thing. It's still, but instead of actually burning it to a VHS tape, as for some reason the VHS tapes I have seem to only go to black and white, like the first section. This section is essentially just using the VCR as a pass-through. So outputting the video signal to the VHS, passing it through the VHS, but not actually recording anything, and then using a capture card to capture back from that and record back, which still gives the nice rustic effect. I should probably make this. Probably just grab the output video. So you get the very different effect all around the edge, as well as when we transition to this, we still have the poorer quality. The then third section, as we go through the ages, we've gone through black and white VHS. Oh, thank you, Vegas. Oh, did that just crash? No, it still works. Okay, Vegas. Yeah, you can understand some of the reason it took so long is because the Vegas has started to get terribly slow once I have this much stuff in it. But yeah, so we then transitioned from VHS into this section, which is rendered at 480p interlaced. Yeah, there's a fair few errors that Vegas has had over the process. I've lost count of how many times it crashed during the making of this project. But yeah, so now, as we go into the 2000s in the history of D&D, we now have the interlacer, which you can see when stuff moves. We have all the lines splitting across it, especially once I get right here. As it moves across, everything's split and has those fuzzy lines at the edge from where it's trying to interlace frames together, but of course this doesn't actually have any interlaced frames. And then when we finally get back to 2014, we then have full 1080p again. So that was a section that I was very proud of, and hence why there's a separate separate video, because I had to render all this out and then import it to edit the final file here, which I think all came together quite nicely. I tapped on a Vegas, so give it 30 seconds for it to actually work again. Again, the section of the half-elves getting obliterated was in colour, and something that I just outputted to VHS. Then it's on to fairly standard parts. The only thing is with these, for a lot of it, is that there's an awful lot of sections where I've had to crop out the UI to just get blank frames. Much later, I would realise that I could just install a mod that added a toggle button to just disable the UI, which would have made things a lot easier. But you know, we live and learn. The early section of these don't have many more edits. These are just, as I've shown in previous videos, just standard picture-in-picture, just clips. This of then just a standard bit that I recorded on my phone, showing the screen, then the actual screen itself. Nothing too out there. This is a bit that, in retrospect, I'm not sure why I did, as showing someone trying to set a bomb outside the Old Bailey in London, then getting attacked by angelic cops, is a reference at most 2 people would get, as it references a Pathfinder campaign that I played as a teenager with some friends. I think at most one of which watches my videos, so I in retrospect, that was an odd choice, but that is what that meant. Then just some standard fade-ins as we get colour coming in. Nothing too out there. Again, fairly simple ones. For these sections, this was just something that I had to put together in, well, I was going to say Photoshop, actually just paint.net. Then going into the Monster Girl quest with Luca's dad there and the angels that he seduced. And then old Genghis Khan getting targeted by the demons. Character creation was a fairly easy section to edit, nothing too out there, it was just a matter of getting the edits. But we do then get on to this, which was the maths for working out how many, I don't even know what you'd call them, supersets, I think they might be called, for how many possible different builds there were, which, God, that was a lot. It was like times 10 to the 40 or something, or times 10 in terms of how many different builds there were. I'm pretty sure that my maths is wrong, as my friend who has a maths degree got a very different number, but then again, who knows. I also hid an extra joke in this section here, because if you look at what the first letter of each of the classes that are equipped here are, you'll notice it spells something out of RICKASTLEY. You have in fact been rickrolled, but I've no idea if anyone actually would have noticed that one, because it's quite well hidden. I was going to spell out more, but I was doing the respec in order to do this, and it just started getting incredibly slow for some reason, just almost unusably slow, so in the end kept just the standard recastling. Moving on, we're getting into further sections. Nothing too out there here, just images that I edited in paint.net and then over standard footage. This, the editor does not like it. If you try and just play
The wizard
this,
understands musical.
it chugs quite hard, but it's all it is. It's just a bunch of different pictures of musical theory, which, God, I have no idea how musical theory works. It's esoteric knowledge as far as I'm concerned. I did my best to understand it in order for this joke here, because I wrote the line.
Knows that the fifth harmonic chord will resonate with the third of the opposing minor scale.
I wrote that without any knowledge of actual how musical theory works, so that was my best guess of an arpeggiated C major chord and then a C minor starting on the third or the fifth note. I don't remember, played on just an online piano. I do have a MIDI keyboard, but it's not actually connected. And it was easier just to do it on an online one, just playing it using less of the keyboard. But I think it was probably close enough. Then we move on to the sorcerer, who has musical theory for dummies. Goes out, explodes, and then he just
Until they gained an intrinsic knowledge of what sounds good.
plays Wonderwall, because of course it's Wonderwall, and then it's some standard clips until we get to the Blood Rager, which this was quite a tall one. There was a good few sections to this one, as there's actually two rails of bath salts, as one of them is the reflection underneath in the shiny desk. So as it goes both along, these just have an adaptive crop where it just crops more of the thing as something slide across, thus getting rid of all of it. Fairly straightforward, nothing too much to it there. Then this one took a while, but again is not that complicated. It's just moving around rocks and then phasing between different coloured squares. These are just literally just a full thing of the colour, but turned down to give the effect of like a police siren. The rock you may recognise as the rock I did use for a joke in Succubus as well. That's why it has all the blood on it, and I couldn't be bothered to find the rock again. I was like, you know what? We'll just go with the bloody rocks, they're good enough. Fairly straightforward patch from there up until we hit Act 0, or start of the prologue, which is just standard fade out, and then basic dialogue until we hit stuff to do with the horse, which again just a standard movement, nothing too complex there. But this bit took a bit longer, as all the sections of the ascension of the horse. So it's just on a standard starry background, which then I added a bunch of just sort of esoteric symbology to the background, set it to... Why is there nothing there? Is this... Oh, it's because it's on a black background. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, just some good gold symbols to go across, and then add the horse on top. And in fact, added a few layers of horses to some of them. This stuff I think I posted once I finished it, because I was actually quite proud of it. These just used changing crops in order to spin the horse, rather than spinning it with picture in picture that wouldn't have worked quite as well. Now we get on to the history of the world wound, which yeah, bless me. Yeah, again, is nicely achieved by just having two different pieces of terrain that lock together, and then one of them just happens to wriggle about and slide away. Allowing our demon circle, which, as you probably guessed, was just a full-on circle, just cropped to only part of it. As that pours in. And then this was actually interesting, as there is actually a full map of Galorian. This isn't just some Google Maps. This is of the Pathfinder world. Someone made a full Google Map style map of all of Pathfinder. And we just move on to standard spinning soldiers going in as well. The editor does not like this, and chugs to hell. But then we have Wendowag coming up. I could have done this two ways. One by having the baby carrier split into two parts, one in the front, one in front, one in back. But instead, what I did is we just have an adjustable crop. So as baby Wendowag slides out, the crop expands to show more. And if that's done at the same rate of as you have it moving, you get the nice look of something extending outwards. It's a bit of a pain to set up, but not actually as tricky as it first appeared. And move on to Wendowag's introduction. I did originally try and draw all of these myself, all the little badges, but they kind of looked terrible, so the only one that's actually the original one that I drew is the cat. The rest I just found clip art for and built it together out of that instead. Then we have fairly simple ones up until the eating of the sword, which is a fairly simple thing. It's just a two-part, one for the head, one for the body. Nice and simple. The sword goes down, and you're all good. Moving on, we get to this, which looks more complicated than it is, but these are, because it's just a repeating motion, I can just copy and paste it. And then we just have three different images, one for Canaveras plus the Mongols, and then plus the Ivory Labyrinth as well. Yeah, the Shield Maze even as well. Again, very similar works for the BT van, just making it hop up and down, and just make sure that I've got it cropped correctly to the correct size, applied a bit of shadow to it so it looked like it fit, and then add some sound effects to really sell it. My cat can beat your cat. Yeah, I could probably beat most people's cats, to be honest. And we have going into the Shield Maze. Nothing too complex there. Just standard clips, with then the insertion of Archer from Arcanum, as they are notorious for their rather quick arm there. As we get onto the Nenio versus the Balrog, fairly simple edits. Do I identify as a furry? Yeah, kind of. I don't have a persona or anything like that, but yeah, no, I do enjoy stuff produced by that community. Yeah, so we have the bonk and then just the explosion. You probably will see this specific explosion used in every video I use, because it is just my favourite explosion. It just works. It works well. It does wonders. Then good old Waves of Ecstasy, better known as Power Word Come, but it just is. Yeah, no, We will not be doing that, I think. No, there'll be no glomping taking place today. Yeah. Then we just get on to buffs and Sneaky Bastard, which nothing too out there. Fairly standard crops, or just panning crop, which is just done by going through it frame by frame, well, not quite frame by frame, but a few frames at a time to make sure that the frame tracks where the arrows are going. Essentially, they're just two-dimensional camera moves. I don't know, I think I might be because I did the stream a bit earlier than I usually did, which it's probably still fairly early for the Americans, so they might not be up. Yeah, and PM's there as well. But yeah, I think you two are the only ones here at the moment. But that's fine. If you find it interesting, that's enough for me. Yeah. Moving on to, that's just discussion of combat, that's all just standard clips. Yeah, a lot of the clips I use are actually from the second half of the game, which I've not actually shown yet. Avu, the dragon up here, is the one who has by far the worst hitbox in the game. Oh no, your English is fine. Like, it's spelt with an E rather than an I, but apart from that, you're pretty spot on. And hey, I've got dyslexia out the ass. I can't exactly spell grey either. Yeah. Oh yeah. Avu. Do you have a better shot of Avu? I think I do, but it's right at the end of Act 2. Yeah. So Avu here is a big ass dragon, and her hitbox is just ridiculously big. Like, it goes out to where the tips of her wings are, and it's a cylinder. So, if I wanted to, like, select... If I wanted to select Nenio here, I wouldn't be able to select Nenio, because she's inside of Avu's hitbox. I'd only be able to select Avu. So she was quite a pain to wrangle for getting good shots. She's just too large. Or has too large of a hitbox. And the same is true for when you're targeting things. I think we're still in... Where were we? No, we're still in Act 1. Yeah. Same is true for when you're targeting things. As you can see with Nenio, her hitbox comes out a little bit, so she'd still get hit by that. But if it was... Avu's hitbox would be out to, like, here-ish, so you can't cast past her very well without accidentally hitting her as well. Yeah. How long does it take to make these videos? Too long. At a rough estimate, just for editing, not for recording, scripting, or audio, or final audio and touch-up, at a rough average, it's about 4 hours work per 30 seconds of video. That's the rough rate that I find it works out to. You also may notice here that the main character profile is actually different, as this was on a second campaign that I was doing that was going to be a Lich run, which I've still yet to actually have time to go and do, as editing this pretty much took up all of it. Minecraft videos without editing. Yeah, I do envy like the Let's Players who can just dump like 60 minutes of unedited footage that requires like 5 minutes of cleanup and that's it. It would make things a lot quicker. But hey ho. I'm proud of my videos for what they are, and it's not like this is my main source of income, or even really a source of income anyway. I don't think I've made enough ad revenue yet to actually have any payout yet. But yeah. The animated ember here that's rotating is in fact just different screenshots that I'd taken from the portrait, run through BG Remover, and then we can just rotate. My favorite explosion.gif. Well, it's actually an MP4, but whatever. And then just run the images in the opposite direction, which I suppose that's how animation works anyway, because it's just video is just a series of frames. Moving on, we've got some fairly simple things. Yeah, this crit table that shows the target's head bursts like an overripe fruit and sprays blood, bone, and brains in all directions. Each target within 4 meters of the deceased must make a challenging +0 agility test or suffer -10 to his weapon skill and ballistic skill for its next turn, as gore gets in his eyes and obscures his visor. That is from the crit table for, I think, Dark Heresy, either third or, I think Dark Heresy 2nd edition. Oops. Didn't I want to start later? No, I started roughly when I said I'd start. I gave it the time as 4 o'clock when I'd start. I've done it as 6 previously, but I wanted to do it a bit earlier today, see how that would go. In retrospect, it might have been better to wait, as the Americans probably wouldn't have been awake for the start of this. They might be now as we get close to 5 o'clock, but yeah, not sure about that. Oh, I think they left anyway. Never mind. Yeah, this is from Act 4. We'll get to that in the second part of the video. But yeah, no real difficult edits here. Just making sure to gather all the footage. Oh yeah, that's something of note. If we go back to the start, and yeah, 144 hours. So that was when I started editing. If I go to Steam now and go to Pathfinder, it's now sitting at 239 hours. As that's the amount of time that I accrued extra in it during all the editing and everything like that. Okay, now we're going to give it 30 seconds for Vegas to reply again. So yeah, it took. I recorded about an extra 100 hours of footage over the course of doing this. Are we in Act 1 yet? No, we're not in Act 1 yet. We're getting to Act 1. Yeah, we're doing the 2 different types of role player. So we have the role player and the role player. This in the background here is a game called Megamech. That is a Java simulation of tabletop BattleTech. I do quite enjoy it myself. I am somewhat of a BattleTech player, as you could probably tell from right here. 20 hours of playing, 100 hours of editing. Yeah, roughly works out about that ratio. Yeah, good old combat math. That is BattleTech. I'd like to do a video on BattleTech. Maybe I'll do it specifically on Megamech at some point, but I've got other ones that I want to get done first. And then good old Gear Falcon, and then well, myself in the Jade Falcon regalia. Afternoon, June. Mic is scuffed. My mic's always scuffed. Yeah, that's that section basically done. In this section here, I actually used a bit of a trick as rather to get the typing quicker. I typed it all out first and then just started deleting it and then reversed the clip, so it looks like it's typing all out, but it's in fact deleting just the footage is shown in reverse. Then we get on to the end of the prologue. Nothing much here. These are just differential crops for each word they come through. 1 second. Sorry, I'm still a little under the weather, so I'm a bit gummed up. Yeah, I'm not a paladin. I'm not immune to disease. But yeah, there we go. So that's just standard animation. Smash what in particular? Yeah, and we're just on to the end of the prologue. These are not particularly difficult edits, they're just sort of swish swashes over, swooses down, thing turns around, explosion.jpg. So standard. Hidden in this scene, something may look a bit off, which is that character model's a bit big compared to what's meant to be the literal half-orc. Standing, it's because I'd actually cast enlarged person before, in the fight before, and it hadn't worn off yet. So in the cutscene, it's still showing as giant. And then we get on to notes on death. Using who else but Camilla, of course, who I did mispronounce for most of the video as Camilla. It is Camellia, but well, it's 4 hours of audio. I wasn't going to go back and re-record it all. So yeah, then we get on to death and resurrection, which you won't be able to resurrect at the point that this shows, as this is very early on and this is much later in the game. But yeah, resurrecting in Pathfinder is not that hard. You also start the game with 2 instant resurrection items, which essentially are your get out of jail free cards if you fuck up. I want to be the Boshi. Yeah, no, we will not be playing that. That's one of the original Rage games. That's going back. Yeah. Woe, rotating horse upon you. But yeah, the horse was there the whole time. I just covered up with fire. Not even that well. That was a bit sloppily done. This is a joke I probably spent longer making than I quite frankly should have. Because finding the right sort of cave stairs looking things took me like half an hour in its own right. Then cutting it all out, then making the sign, then sticking in the background, which you may recognise as this is just from Succubus, cropped so you can't see the rest of the UI. And then with the silhouette of Val there. And then, hey, look, we're finally done with Act 1. With Act 0. We're on to Act 1. Yeah, that's just a fairly simple picture cropping slide out, slide back. Nothing too tricky there. Ember being burnt at the stake, again, is a fairly simple one. It's just a few layers of things stacked on top of each other to show the burning effects. Game already consumed 70 hours of your life. Yeah, I have seen you playing it a lot, June. And you're only just on Act 4. You've probably got at least another 40 hours to go. Again, the alternate character portrait from my Lich playthrough. Oh, you can't run it? It's... I think it is on consoles as well, if you have one of those. My PC lags with Minecraft. Yeah, I remember those days. Back when I was as a kid, I'd play Minecraft on a PC with that set to the lowest render distance and lowest graphics settings, with then a laptop next to it in order to Skype my friends at the same time, because it wasn't capable of doing both simultaneously. Yeah, getting a new PC will make that better at some point. Yeah, these lines are only if you brought the Thiefling along. Once again, showing that Tieflings are just the worst people around, who like throwing rocks at children. And we just have demonstrations of witches, which, again, nothing too difficult. Just two different pictures of a crow with a Kamehameha wave coming out of its mouth. Yeah, nothing too complex until we get to this. As this is a bit more of a pain in the ass, because I had to get a separate frame for it. I had to get a separate frame for each rotation of the fox. I could use the ember once I got earlier, but then I had to place those so they looked appropriate. These were not too bad, just standard flick arounds. And then ember in different positions. Round and around she goes. And this is just done by picture in picture of just... Why does it always make it so small to start with? Essentially, what you just do is you have it in one place, and then you create an extra keyframe in the same place, and then on the next frame move it, and then it just jumps around. So as complicated as that looks, it wasn't actually that bad. Then at the back here, we just have another Wendoag differential crop. So it just crops and then moves at the same rate, so it looks like it's coming out from behind something. Again, this can be done by just creating two layers, so you have something and just moving it from behind something to in front. But I didn't want to have to cut out all the details from the background, so I just slid instead. For the arrow, this just appears in his head. It's just not there one frame, and then it is there the next, and then we carry on the momentum. Then it's fairly plain sailing for a while. Just the edit of Stanton and Milagro as Team Rocket, and then the flag, which I just made the base texture of the flag as an image, and then there's just a website that lets you upload to it to make the waving flag, and that worked. That worked fine for that. And then we got Galfrey, we got Crusade, and then we have Lindsay and Nura. The Pathfinder games truly have given me a hatred for halflings, because Nero, as you know, is just straight evil, and Lindsay was the only companion that you weren't allowed to get rid of. She had some, like, bullshit DMPC ability where anytime she would die, she got teleported to safety instead. So, I resented that you were forced to have her in your party in Kingmaker. But not this time. This time you can just kill her. Then you have Sorciel. I didn't really ever use him much or interact with him much. I did most of his quests, but I didn't find him that interesting, to be honest. To be honest, most of the human characters in this game just aren't that interesting. Thank you, Ufi. I do put quite a lot of work into these. What are you referring to there, June? Arushle is themed with butterflies, as butterfly is the symbol of Desna, who's the god that she worships. Then we have the Kingmaker romance options. Someone in the comments did point out that you could also, you didn't just have the 4, you could also romance Narissa. Oh, could Arushle not fully die? I never got to that point with her, I think. She was always at the back, so she was never in that much harm's way. But also, you can just remove her from your party. You can tell her to just leave. Or you can just never recruit her in the first place. With Lindsay, she forces herself into your party, and you can never get rid of her in Kingmaker. Can't do that before Act 4. Ah, right. Fair enough. But yeah, so in... the extra thing to notice is that there's not just the 4, there is the 5th, as someone pointed out in the comments, but she was down there the whole time. Narissa here. She in fact also shares the same voice actor as Windowag. And honestly, Narissa is the only thing approaching a good romance option in the first game. Like, Octavia and Valerie are just boring. Ragnar's okay, and I know that some people like Tristan, but he's only for straight women. So I wasn't able to. So I wasn't able to actually romance him. Actually, no, I should have been able to in my original campaign. If I'm going to be Valerie, I wouldn't. Oh well, I just wasn't interested in. Yeah, and there were some extra ones added in DLC, which adding like 2 people that are basically the same feels like a bit of a cop-out, but oh well. And he's only romanceable in a DLC, so yeah, still not great romance options. But as you can see from behind here, the one that I did romance was old Ragongar there. Right, yeah. I genuinely, this was a genuine thing of, I couldn't remember everyone who was in my my party when I played Kingmaker. I remember Amiri, the barbarian, Ragongar. There was the depressed dwarf, I think his name was like Harim, or like Ham Sandwich or something. And then there was Octavia. Looking back, I knew it was some elf, but I couldn't remember anything else about them, other than their name was something like Octavian. And then I genuinely, for the life of me, could not remember who the 6th party member was that I used in Kingmaker. In the end, I eventually remembered that it was the undead Inquisitor. God, she was boring. And then I swapped her out for the Ranger later in the game. Octavian? No, Octavian's a half-elf, I think. Yeah, pretty sure they're half-elf. I think the undead Inquisitor was an elf. Yeah, then we get on to Wrath of the Righteous, where the romance options are considerably improved. Again, we also do have a little... Narissa? Not Narissa. Yeah, it's Narissa. hanging down. No, it's not Narissa. It's in the first game. I've forgotten her name now. The Queen of Shadows, who's hiding down in the bottom there. Interestingly, a Nocticular. That's it. Yeah, it's Nocticular, because she's actually romanceable on the demon path, but she's mostly hidden. Also, Nocticula's one of the only characters that you can be spoiled with the game for, by knowing Pathfinder lore, as certain events that can happen to her in your campaign have already happened in official Pathfinder canon. So if you end up looking up the wiki, you'll actually find out what happens to her, and one of the parts, which I will go into in the second part, because I quite enjoy it. That was it for now, then. Oh, hey, June, look, there you are. With the 8-hour call of you just continuously talking about Might and Magic lore to me about. Yeah, it is you. Yeah, speaking of the Might and Magic battles, they kind of suck. I don't know if I really brought that across in the video, but they're just not very good. Like, it's just a matter of having a higher level, and that's all it comes down to. That and just how many more ranged units you have than your enemy. But yeah. Nothing hugely interesting to do with it. And thus we will get on to Regal. Yeah, we've got some cipher text there for those that like deciphering them. Yeah, don't know why I got that he was lawful neutral when he was actually lawful evil. I don't know how I forgot that. And then we get on to one of my favourite things to animate. Kicking gnomes. Ooh. Ooh.
Someone who's punting height.
I did also, I don't know if it will come through on the stream, but did actually do panning audio. So you can hear it going from one side to the other as he falls across. And it's just back to Crusade Management, which, yeah, we know about that. Yeah, Darien and the thing. I didn't get either of those in my party on my first playthrough. I completely missed them. Then, yeah, we have the Angel Cop in the early series. This is a bit more of a complex one, and thus I did have to use 2 parts for this. So you have the table front, then just Valk, and then the back. Yeah, I don't know how you still managed to miss that, June. I gave you the heads up. We have Wengu, my beloved, which I am proud of that edit. I think that came out funny. And then we have the low-tier god Arulu Vorlish, which is kind of spoilers for the second half, but they're out of enough context that I think it's fine. Okay, and we're actually into the spoiler sections. Edits here, to start with, are mostly simple. This is just standard crop and picture to move stuff around. Appropriate sound effects, cutting to the right things. So far, so simple. The things that we start getting a bit more complicated once we start getting to the parallax scenes. As all these sections move at a different rate, and they all do move. Like, at first it doesn't actually look like the sky is moving, but it actually does. Not very much, but because it's the furthest away, so it moves the least, but it does move. The scouts disappearing was actually a just useful quirk of how stuff stops rendering once you get your PC too far away out of line of sight. So I could just use that to make them disappear. And then we get on to the Vescivores attack, which starts off fairly simple, just moving some horses about, getting darker. And then we have the buckler on the side of the horse, which is actually reflecting the next scene. And by reflecting, I mean it's just a horse with a hole in it. And then the shield is semi-transparent, which gives the effect of looking like a reflection by panning across the corpse field. Ooh, accidentally made it thinner as I went as well, but it doesn't actually matter as the horse hole is covering all that. Then you have basically the same thing, and then a swarm of Vescivores. I did actually get two separate sounds, so it worked out quite nicely if you had the sort of outside sound and the inside sound.
Could be heard, slowly picking up in volume.
It changes the ambience. And then we have the attack of the Vescivores, which, again, I was quite proud of this section of the having the helmet that just obscures. As it then... Oh, you got jump scared? I'm happy that was the intention. The big scary bug. And then just chewing sounds. So I'm getting blocked out. And for the just sort of Vescivore general ambience, it is in fact just static. Just visual noise. Not sure how well that would have actually come out on YouTube. I forgot. That might have just all blurred into JPEG artifacts, but who knows. Then we get onto the Commander's attack, which nothing too much to edit there until we get to Erebeth and Anevia. That's just standard picture-in-picture to move stuff together, then move away, and hitting shields together, which just had to be timed with the right sound effects. Time-consuming, but not difficult. And then, again, you have this, which then has a shadow that gets cast across it by the person as it gets close. In retrospect, I think it would probably have looked better without the shadow. No, I wanted the shadow to be there to sort of imply that it was going up to a person that was much taller than it, to then get stomped. Then we have Window Axe Romance 1, which was a fairly simple section to edit. Just a lot of clips with the UI cropped out, really. And then hitting the past time button and recording a different clip and then fading between them to show sort of impression of time passing. Then we have the cropped pornography of Window Egg. And then this shot of the World Wound, which was an interesting one. As this is not the usual angle the map's shown at, but there's no way to change the view angle when you're in the map screen. However, having it at weird angles using the free camera mod sometimes meant that you got these weird angles on the map screen, which I was happy to take advantage of, so I thought they looked quite cinematic and nice. Oh yes, Window Axe scars. So yeah, that's actually just a scar from cosmetic surgery. That's an arm lift. However, this was just my arm that I just scratched with a needle in order to just show some red marks for the sake of the video. And then this again is pornography that I edited to be blue, to have the spider's legs coming out the back, and then the black hair. The arm was clocky. But then we get on to the journey back. On the journey to Dresden. Fairly simple one here. This is just another set of parallax movements. So just each thing moving at a bit of a different rate. Moving on, we finally get to the start of planning. So this is when I started discovering this is when I started discovering Bezier masking, which gives the effect around the edge where it's all softened rather than just the harsh. Just makes it fit into the shot a little better. Moving on, we've then got Erebus going away, which is just some fairly atrocious data night, if I'm honest, just by adding in setting the darkness to a bit lower and then just adding in a blue filter to make it look more like the night. And moving on, we have Nenio talking the gargoyle to death, which is just the blood hernia. As Nenio does have that effect on people. Followed by Ember being all saintly and then making it happy. This was just an edit I did myself in Paint.net, but I think it turned out alright. It still looked fairly natural. And then in the background is just a scene of panning in order to get something to be the background that moves as it's going across the background. Yeah, the happy gargoyle. I like to think he went off and bettered his life. Maybe joined the Redeemed Crusaders with all the demons. Again, there's not a huge amount to talk about, really, until we get to Dresden. As or just complete 5 minutes ahead. Yeah, that is the more likely outcome. Yeah, here, because we go back, that's what the image is meant to look like, but I removed the cloth and then had to redraw everything that was previously covered by it. And I think it still looks alright. But yeah. The Sword of Valor, sadly not an actual sword. And then we get into planning. I had not actually discovered Bezier masking at this point, so this is just a fuzzy thing by nature of how I made it, with then Eclipse just shown underneath in the appropriate space to fit in. God, yeah, that getting the footage, I had to play through quite a lot, like a good few hours of gameplay just to get this footage of Varigel running and taking out the artillery. All that for like 2 seconds. And then we have the Veska War jelly and the volunteers being sent to use it. And we get the Rochelet's initial introduction, and then on to the fight with the others. A lot of these are desynced from the audio. The animation shown of what Malagra was doing, it wasn't actually from the same piece of audio, it was just what looked appropriate to match. And then she absconds out the window, and somehow no one notices. And then the immensely satisfying death of Nura. God, I had been looking forward to that. That was good. Yeah, this was just an image that I edited, so I added the stabbed paper to the wall, added Lindsay's face on it, and then it's just a matter of having a silhouette move around in front of it, and then go away, and just panning in on it. I think that makes for a quite good shot. It's easy to understand why people don't see her as she leaves. She can't see them, so they can't see her. Yeah, I suppose. I think it was just because I had something that had true sight on at the time. She could also just teleport, so it's probably not that hard for her to get away. And then we have Nura. I don't know what bug causes it, but no matter how many times I did it, it always happened where she goes to the full character side. What, if magic it could work? Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't know why she pops to the big side and just collapses. Either way, I'm glad she's dead. Then we get onto Avu. And another shot that took far too long to get. Because they don't do their idle animations that often. So actually getting the one I wanted took quite a while. And then we're finally on to Act 3, the final act for this section. I was quite happy with that title because it applies both to the player character, who's basically become the Queen of Dresden in the Crusades, and the Queen Galfrey herself, who is the Queen Crusader. Nice double meaning. Yeah, that's just Crusade management. Nothing interesting there, both to talk about in editing or actually in doing it itself. And now transgenderism. Yeah, Anevia stating that she was in fact born male. Yeah, for Irabeth here, that's another, I had to redraw what was originally behind the sword, because the sword's part of the original image. So, to have it move and disappear, I had to redraw what was behind it. Then this, as some people may recognise, is the gender-changing potion from Interspecies Reviewers. But yeah, it is. I did find it amusing that it costs like absolutely nothing, because 100 gold is the price of 4 onions and a wedge of cheese. However, I actually went and weighed this in my kitchen because it states the weight of the onions, and for me, three onions I had weighed the same as 4 onions here. So hence why there's only 3 onions here, whereas it's actually 4 here to make 100 gold. But yeah, behold, Pathfinder's equivalent of HRT. This is actually the pub shot from the prologue, but well, it serves its purpose. I think that's all you had to put in a tube to make it. Yeah, it's just mashed onion. Getting off the Free Crusaders, and then on to Early Sunset. I suppose using this image is a bit of a spoiler, as showing these actually Mephistopheles. I mean, it was kind of obvious from being called Early Sunset. Like, are you really just essentially going to call yourself Morning Star? Everyone knows that you're just Lucifer from that. Then we get on to Arushale's recruitment, which not too much to talk about here until we get onto the actual story of her background. Yeah, we've got some text, ciphertext here, which I stated what it meant, which meant if this is the first video of mine that anyone's seen, it makes it a bit easier for them to actually work out what it is and work out the other text that's shown in the video. And succubuses from Act 4, Arushale. Again, we have the shot that's from the succubus video, which is appropriate, as she is a succubus. And sneaking in on the bedroom. This is just done in just a few layers. And a standard warp effect. Sort of transparent effect, be the invis. And then Preying Upon is all standard, just picture-in-picture moves with some pan crops and then fade outs. And then I did find this rather nice green screen clip of butterflies, thus allowing me to use them as a motif for anything to do with Desna. Yeah, for the animated Desna here, she's actually in two parts. The body and then the wings. So with the wings, I can then do a crop where the crop gets wider, which results in the wings appearing thinner in the frame. It's a bit backwards to think about at first, but it does make sense given that it's showing as a proportion. All of this screen is represented by this, so if you're making this wider, you're essentially making the thing appear thinner. And Evie gets Arushale getting smited. Just a fade in of white for the flash of the lightning, but there's also a lightning bolt in there, and then just some lingering fire. Again, the butterflies work as a motif. This is just a bunch of different text in different colours, and just changing the font face on every single different letter, and then just copying and pasting that, and just putting it behind, but just shifting some of them around so they're not all the same colour. Standard zoom on Arushale, and then we hit the glass breaking. We fade to white, and the butterflies of Desna to tie all the whole motif together. And then we fade back. Fade back into the present time. Again, this is nothing really complicated here. This is just a bunch of images layered on top of each other. Nothing really to write home about. Again, similar here, just different layers, moving at different rates through the picture, and fade into the white for the flame of hope. Right, most of Wendelag's all stuff is pretty simple, although of note, I did have to redo the fight here 5 or 6 times in order to get all the shots I wanted. Do I plan on making videos on more racy stuff in the future? Yeah, I'm trying to alternate, because I don't want my channel just to be all more racy stuff. But I mean, Succubus, which was like 2 videos ago, was pretty racy, as was the previous video, which was just straight up pornographic games. So this one's almost more of the exception than the rule. It just probably feels like a while because of how long it took to make. Next game's going to be one that's also pretty rough, but not specifically pornographic. Yeah, and we have the Dead Lamb. And moving on, another sliding both movement and crop. Doesn't work perfectly, as there's still a bit of a line you can see here, because at this point I didn't know how to do Bezier custom masks that changed, so I was still just using flat masks. Then just another parallax shot, just with some extra animation added on top. Dresden in Flames is dead simple, just fire behind it. All there is to it. We just got some dead bodies that I just did as their own image. It's transparent for stuff to show through. Ember, and then just the outline I traced for her missing. Fairly simple one, but I'm quite proud of the effect. Then this is all just free camming around, as I'm still not entirely happy with this section, but it worked well enough, because I didn't really know how else to animate the spies arriving to kidnap her. So just kind of showing it as if it's from their perspective, sneaking in, was kind of the best I could do. Again, another one that took a while, because it was just waiting for Arushale to do her animation where she crouches down. And then here we actually have some Bezier masking to make the edges soft and look like Ember's more there, as if I were to turn off the masking, it's very harsh edges, but if you just do it like that, it blends in well and almost looks like she's meant to be there. And we have Baphomet getting annoyed by Ember. The cultist trains Baphomet with his Rolex, which I'm not sure it's high enough to tell it's a Rolex, but yeah, it's a Rolex. And then Strike Boot turning up to go kidnap the others. This shot is the only shot in this video that uses three-dimensional picture-in-picture to get them to have this at an angle for when they're moving. It's I think the only 3D shot in the game, and then the top level of front hill. Meanwhile, Baphomet's way down here. This shot is as basic as they come. I just kept adding more in paint.net until I had plenty enough. Oh, I forgot to crop the mouse out. God damn it. That's going to annoy me. Oh well. And we have the silhouette come up. That's just a change of blur to do the focus pull. So adding blur to the back and removing it from the front. You get the nice focus pull shot. And the knife comes up and the stab. Yeah, I forgot to go over these. The slashes. So these were just ones I made manually and then just added so they go across. And then on to Ember's rescue. There's nothing much for most of it, just free camming shots around. Of note, the cultists do actually get carried off here. So these shots of Ember standing in front, the cultists have already left. So I just had to use some creative cropping to make it appear correct. And we're on to Winter Sun. Very little to talk about in Winter Sun. Well, some shots that I was quite happy with, but apart from that, not that much going on there. Just standard. This was I didn't quite execute perfectly to getting the key to appear as it's not moving. Because it's the texture I just added in over a video. But it's good enough. This, again, is a reverse shot from earlier, from when Milagro escaped. Just played in reverse. And then we have Wendoag Romance 2 in the tavern. Just lots of different panning shots just to keep visual interest up. What is a pain is for specifically this shot, where you do the animation, it forcibly zooms your camera out a massive amount. So even this close zoomed in, which I wouldn't like, is still way, way closer than it makes you. It zooms you out so far, and I don't know why. We have postcoital bliss. Yeah, this is also probably the first video I've made with 3 implied sex scenes. And then we go into the actual what went on in the tavern. We have a sort of shake of the building as they come in. You may recognise these two if you feel like your anime, as they are in fact the racist couple from Monster Musume. But yeah, again, this is just a differential crop and picture-in-picture to move it around. Just a standard pan there. The crosshair doesn't actually move, just the texture behind it. And then we have the same again here, and then the same sort of slash effects. Good job. Does that count? Does that count for what? Moving on, we then have Jerabeth. Oh, yeah, they're an entire different race of being. Maybe xenophobia would be a more correct term. But, like, on the wiki, they're just called the racist couple. And then we have the Ivory Labyrinth, which I actually skipped over most of, because it's quite a long level to play through, but not actually that much happens in it of note until you get to the bridge. Getting these individual shots was a pain in the ass, because your characters don't, like, keep their weapons out unless they're in combat. So I had to, like, have some of my characters engage in combat and then tell a character to hold position in order that I could get good close-up shots of them doing action poses. Apart from for spellcasters, because you can do that out of combat. And then we get on to the Rival of the Hand of the Inheritor, which, as you'll notice, is 3 different camera angles, which meant I just had to play through the scene 3 different times. I, in fact, had to play through it 5 or 6 for other reasons. But yeah, hence why it did mean I could get lots of nice different cinematic angles, and also cut the voice as appropriate. Yeah, we just go on to standard things. But yeah, that's another scene that I'm quite pleased with how the end result was. Yeah, it's just a fight with the swarm that walks. Nothing particularly interesting in there. Oh, hey, Pyro. Nice to see you. Yeah, we're most of the way through the video, but I will go back. Because I assume it's quite early for you over there. I probably should have done this later in the day. But yeah, now we're getting right to the end of the videos. So again, we're getting to the discussion with the Hand of the Inheritor, which again I took like 25 shots of, and then I only used a few in the end, but God, I took so many of them. Descending Knights, again, uses pretty much the same method as before. 4:30 AM. God damn. Where are you then? Is that East Asia? New Zealand. Yeah, okay, that is about as far away from here as it is possible to get. Yeah. This shot I was quite proud of, having like the visual language of the barrier between them, showing the disconnect. Then we get onto the Three Crusaders. This is not actually from in-game. This is from the extra pack, which is a nice big 4K map that I could then pan across. Spain is fully on the other side of the US from New Zealand. Yeah, and we're just north of Spain. We're on, here in the UK. We're on the same latitude. Treant doing the big steppy. And now we get really just into the end game. Yeah, the actual animation for this bit in the game is rather underwhelming. It does the shake, and then it literally just cuts to the open version. It just fades to black for like a second. It's... yeah, so I put the explosion in to actually give it a bit more visual interest. And made it shake a bit more. And then we just have all the fights of the Midnight Fane before we get to the Baelor. Oh god, the Baelor I had to do 7 or 8 times just to get all the shots I wanted. And because he kept dying in a really awkward position, which meant that when the Queen came in, as she will in a moment, the Baelor kept being roughly here. So the Queen was just standing inside his corpse and clipping through, and it looked terrible. So I had to keep doing the fight over and over again until I got lucky and one of the archers hit him and sent him flying across the room, so he wasn't blocking the way. Video was certified banger. I'm glad it was worth the wait. I'm sorry it took so long. But as you can probably see from, you know, all of this, it did take a while. And we just get into Queen Galfrey teleporting, which is just a zoom in, change across, and then pan to thing. And again, some quick movements in it. In-game cutscenes, yeah, they're a bit scuffed in Alcat games. So yeah, I had to do that fight quite a few times. But in the end, I got all the shots of Queen Galfrey that I needed. Then we have Sealer stepping out in front. Which, as you can probably tell, is a quite zoomed in thing, so you can't see me selecting where she needs to stand. For her then to move across. You try to all that. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, then the shots of Sealer are from actually moving, are actually afterwards. Because, while the dialogue's happening, she just stays still. And then I also got quite lucky with her doing the praying pose, although you can see that her hands are not really praying so much as they've clipped through each other at about a 45-degree angle. This is something that doesn't actually show up in-game, but this is what Queen Galfrey looks like if she didn't have all her potions to make herself look young. That's how old she actually is. If you play with a Lich, you can get an undead version of Queen Galfrey, which does look something like it. And And now we move on to just the final bits. Nothing particularly difficult here. This is just adaptive shots. Until we get to this. This was a nightmare, as this was a massive pain in the ass, because it's I thought that I could do it all with Bezier masking, which I tried to do through the Bezier masking tool, because it has options for doing tracking, or for having it animated and having keyframes. However, this tool absolutely cannot do changes in it. All it can do is change the width and the position. It can't actually change the shape of it. However, that can actually be done in the pan and crop tool. So I had to go through and keyframe a frankly inordinate amount of frames of the movement of all of the portal, so that I could then place something underneath it. I also got the I forgot to set it to negative, so it was just still showing this bit and not showing the outfit. But yeah, this took a while. And then underneath, so you had just the one at the top with the gap cut out of it. Same thing underneath, which is just the base layer. And then all the middles of various shots. Yeah, it was a massive pain. Especially because I had to do it 3 times. Because the first 2 times I tried it, it didn't work properly. Yeah, these are just all the different shots of important events that happen throughout. And then the final layer for it is a separate, and this could be just done in a regular masking. Which was to if we enable edit mode, cut out my character there so that they would show on the top. I mean, bad things, but only that's good for me. Yeah. Evil do crime walls. Yeah, but you want your evil to either be way more petty or way more grand. But yeah, the other shot that was a pain in the ass to get is this one, where you can see, I'm not sure if it was even simple, but you could see the reflection here, which was just a matter of I took the shot twice, once with the character standing there and once with it standing here, and then just prayed that the way the portal moved was fixed and wasn't just procedurally generated or algorithmically generated on the fly, so that I could actually get shots where it would match up. And I couldn't quite, but I got it close enough. Funny Swarm Man. Yeah, Funny Swarm Man does sound like a fun one as well. Then we have the final shot of turning and walking into the portal. And then just the... I click outside of Vegas. It's all over. Okay, we're back. Just tight with the music. Of all shots of things that have not happened yet. To sort of flash forward of what would be happening next time. And then the final continued in chapter 2 with a shot of everyone through from the low angle, which I really did like. We're so back. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that was then the end of the video. God, it took a long time, but I hope people enjoyed it. The other thing I will just go back, as it was quite a while ago I mentioned it, was just to re-show this section, as this... Ah, hey Blackfire. Nice to catch you. Yeah, just finishing up really, but I did want to go back and show this bit at the start. That's where it goes black and white here. That's not just a black and white effect. I outputted the HDMI, put that through a converter to composite video, and then recorded this onto a VCR, onto an actual VHS tape, then played the VHS tape and used a composite capture card to then capture it back onto the PC. So this is genuine VHS footage. The second section, where it's actually in colour, is doing the same thing, just without actually recording it to a VHS. So effectively just putting it, the composite path through into the VHS, then out the VHS and back into the, out the VCR even, back into the computer to give the old sort of colour video. And then for the third section of this, where you can see all the interlacing lines, this was 2008, so we're now in the DVD era, so it's now in 480p interlaced. And then once we get to 2014, we're back to full HD. I was very proud of that section. I think it came out quite well. But yeah, I will suppose I will leave it mostly at that, unless there's any questions you want. For those interested, this is the full script. It's quite a few pages, and we are up to here. But yeah, it was a hefty one, this one. Yeah, so we're actually less than halfway, theoretically, because that's page 16 of 34. Halfway would actually be 18, which would be this page. Yeah, I hope to have the second part out by the end of the year, but who knows. I am currently moving house, so and getting all that sorted, so that is taking up a lot of my time. Also, my work tends to get quite busy towards the end of the year, but we'll see. Also, the total file for this, for all the working, comes out to nearly 70 gig. I had a pretty soft voice during the storytelling part, almost wanted to put you on as some sort of lullaby. I mean, hey, if you want to fall asleep to my videos and just let them autoplay, I'm not going to complain. Enjoying City, Seth, and Mandalore in the must-watch when it releases section. I am very flattered to say that, for you to say that. Mandalore and Seth are my biggest influences for making videos and on my style, along with some older ones like sort of Kitty0706 and Dasbo shit sort of channels. Aside from old Call of Duty games, they're like 200 gig now for some unknown, not good reason, but it is what it is. But yeah, overall, it's the video I've been most happy with, and it's been doing quite well. The only video which performed better at this point in time for how long it's been out was the Succubus video. But yeah, thank you very much for all coming along. I will put the VOD up as well, just for people to watch that, or if you want to miss any section or want to come back to it. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'll take them now, and if not, then we'll sign off. Would like to ask, do you think thanks to Baldur's Gate, Pathfinder will become even more popular? I don't think so. I don't think it'll make it any less popular, but it might draw more people into CRPGs. But overall, I'm not sure it's going to have a huge effect. Maybe it'll get people into CRPGs, and then they'll go back and play with it, but maybe not. Getting an itch to play Wrath of the Righteous. You should. It's good. I would absolutely recommend it. The early game is solid, although the early game is a bit boring on a second playthrough. On a first playthrough, it's fine. Once you're up to about level, but that's the case with kind of all D&D systems. I find they're not interesting until you hit level 5. The combat's just a bit boring. Do I play undead in any games? Yes. In fact, if I find somewhere here, I have a second playthrough of Pathfinder that I have started, which is yeah, there we go. That will do. Which, in fact, I am playing as an undead and planning to do a lich run. See you next time, Pirate. What race? I think I set the race as Dampir for this one. The Bone Burb. Yeah, I think it's actually a hawk skeleton rather than a falcon, but it's close enough. They're both raptors. Yeah. Now that I'm actually done with this, I can go actually play video games again. It's been weird. This weekend I've been playing through Armored Core 4 and 4A, and it's weird to be able to sit down and play video games and not go, oh, I should be working on the video, or oh, I should be editing or something like that. It's nice to have my time back to myself again. Either way, I think we will call that a day. Thank you very much for watching. Glad everyone liked the video. Please do share it around if you liked it, as that's pretty much all that matters on YouTube these days. And I will catch you in the next one. Hopefully, next video should be out for Halloween. You're very much welcome. I will catch you all in the next one.